Hey, welcome back. So today we're going through 4 twisted 4chan posts, and a couple of these really got to me. Drop a like and subscribe if you want more. Let's get into it. I, 33F, found a wedding album in my late mother's attic. She's the bride. The groom is not my father. There's a birth certificate behind the last page. The cottage had been quiet for weeks, too quiet for what was waiting in the attic. My name is Rachel. I'm 33, I work as a proofreader, and 3 months ago my mother Eleanor died. She left me her cottage, this old, drafty place out in the middle of nowhere that she lived in alone for as long as I can remember. I moved in to sort through her things. No one else was going to do it. My father, Graham, lives about 3 hours away. We talk, but we're not close. My parents split when I was small, and he never really came back into the picture in any meaningful way. My best friend Nadia calls me every couple of days to make sure I'm eating. That's about the extent of my support system right now. The days here have a rhythm. I wake up, I make tea in my dead mother's kitchen, and I pack her life into boxes. Her clothes, her books. 30 years of receipts she kept in a shoebox. It's the loneliest kind of work there is. Last Tuesday, I went up to the attic to clear the last of it. There was a sealed box wedged behind the insulation in the far wall, shoved back where you'd never find it unless you were tearing things apart. Inside was a wedding album. Professional photographs, thick matte paper, dated 19 years ago. My mother is the bride. She's wearing ivory lace and she looks... I don't know how to say this. She looks happy, in a way I never saw her look in person. The groom is a man I have never seen before. Not in any photo downstairs. Not in any story she ever told me. I went through every page. Then I pulled the backing board off the last page because the corner was lifting. Pressed flat behind it was a birth certificate. A boy named Caleb, born the same year as the wedding. Mother listed as Eleanor, father listed as the groom. Place of birth? This cottage. I have a brother. He was born in this house, and no one, not once in 33 years, ever said a word about him. She was alone in the house where he was born, and she had no idea who he had become. Rachel couldn't leave it alone. The proofreader in her wouldn't let her. I have spent the last 4 days doing nothing but pulling at this thread. I called my father Graham the morning after I found the album. I kept my voice steady. I asked him if he knew my mother had been married before him. There was this pause, not a surprised pause, more like a man deciding how much to say. He told me he knew Eleanor had a serious relationship before they got together, but he swore he never knew about a marriage or a child. I asked him 3 different ways. He stuck to the same answer every time. I do not know if I believe him. The album is still on my kitchen table. I have gone through it so many times I could describe every photograph from memory. The groom is tall, dark-haired, maybe mid-20s in the pictures. He is looking at my mother the way people look at someone when they think the future is settled. The guests are strangers. Not a single face I recognize from my mother's life. It is like a wedding that happened in a parallel universe. I searched the groom's name from the birth certificate online. Almost nothing came back. A couple of old directory listings, no social media, no obituary. Nadia told me to slow down. She said some family secrets stay buried for a reason, and maybe I should respect that. I love her, but I cannot stop now. I went to the parish office in the village and found a marriage record that matches the album date. Eleanor and this man, married right here. But there is no divorce filing anywhere in the county records. As far as the paperwork is concerned, my mother was still married to him when she died. I keep walking through this cottage and feeling the weight of it differently now. Not haunted, nothing like that. Just the awareness that another family existed inside these walls, and someone spent years making sure every trace of it disappeared. Caleb would be 19 now if he is alive. I need to find out. I owe him that much, even if my mother decided he should stay gone. Somewhere out there, a 19-year-old boy had no idea his mother had just died. The name was right there the whole time. This is what I do for a living. I find errors. I cross-reference. I check the thing against the other thing until the discrepancy reveals itself. So I kept pulling council records, electoral rolls, anything publicly accessible in this area. And then I found it. The surname on Caleb's birth certificate. I recognized it. Not from some distant record, from my mother's phone. About 2 years before she died, Eleanor hired a local handyman. She mentioned him a few times on our calls. Quiet lad, she said. Does odd jobs around the village. Good with his hands. I never met him. Not once. And now that I am looking back at it with clear eyes, I realize my mother always scheduled his visits for days when I was not coming down. Every single time. I thought it was coincidence. It was not. I pulled up the cottage's maintenance file. Eleanor kept meticulous records, and his name is there over and over for the last 2 years. He replaced the kitchen tap the week before I moved in. He still has a key. His toolbox is sitting in my garden shed right now. I am not afraid of him. That is not what this feeling is. It is the slow, horrible recognition of how carefully my mother built this. She kept us apart on purpose, in the same village, orbiting the same house, and made sure we would never overlap. I do not know if he knows who he is to me. I do not know if he knows who Eleanor really was to him. I have his address from the invoices. He lives in a trailer about 10 minutes down the road. I have been sitting here for 2 hours trying to decide if I drive there tonight or if I wait. Nadia says wait. My gut says go. Midwestern moth. The fact that the birth certificate lists your cottage as the place of birth means your mother gave birth to this child in the same house you are sleeping in right now. I do not know why, but that detail is making my skin crawl. Static in the walls. The detail about the toolbox still being in the garden shed genuinely unsettled me. He has been in and out of that property while you have been living there, and you had no idea who he really was. Graveyard shift, Dan. Everyone is focused on the album, but can we talk about the handyman having a key to your house right now? Change your locks tonight. I do not care how nice he seems. I changed the locks the same night I found the album, before I even knew who he was. I want to be clear, when I went to his trailer and we talked, he was not threatening at all. He cried. He showed me a photo Eleanor gave him of herself as a young woman and asked if I had any others. He does not have a single picture of her from before 2 years ago. Whatever my mother did, she did it to both of us. She went. 3 days later, Rachel posted the update everyone was waiting for. I met the brother my mother hid from me for 19 years. I drove to his trailer. 10 minutes down the road, but it felt like an hour. I sat in the car for another 5 minutes after I parked, just staring at this small, tidy place with a work van outside and a window box with herbs in it. Then I knocked. He opened the door and I saw my mother's eyes looking back at me from a stranger's face. Same color, same shape, same way they narrowed slightly before recognition hit. He is 19. He looks older. I told him my name was Rachel and that Eleanor was my mother. He stared at me and said, I will never forget the exact words. She told me she only had one kid, a son, me. He thought I was a tenant. Eleanor told him she had rented the cottage out to a young woman while she sorted the estate. He believed her because why would you question that? We sat in his kitchen for 3 hours. We compared everything. Every visit Eleanor made to him, every phone call, every excuse for why he could not come to the cottage on certain days. She built 2 airtight worlds. In one, she had a daughter named Rachel and no other children. In the other, she had a son named Caleb and no other children. She maintained both for nearly 20 years without a single crack. Caleb told me he grew up in care. Eleanor found him when he was about 20 and offered him work. He never pushed for more than that. He said he was grateful just to know her at all. We are not angry at each other. We are 2 people staring at the same lie from opposite sides. I keep thinking about how much energy it must have taken her to keep this up, and I cannot decide if it was love or cowardice or both. Not a throwaway. I work in family law, and I have seen this exact pattern. One parent constructs a wall between children from different relationships because of a genuine threat that eventually disappears, but the wall stays up because dismantling it means admitting to years of deception. Your mother probably could not face that conversation. Quilt gremlin. Please talk to your father before you do anything else. If Eleanor kept this from you, there is a real chance your dad either knows and has been protecting the secret too, or he has no idea and this will devastate him. Not a throwaway. This is the right call. If Graham knew, his reaction will tell you immediately. People cannot fake surprise about something this big. And if he did not know, he deserves to hear it from Rachel before he hears it from anyone else. Either way, she needs an ally for what comes next. They went back to the cottage together. This time, the house had nothing left to hide. Caleb noticed the loose floorboard in my mother's bedroom before I did. He knelt down and pulled it up like he had done it before, and maybe he had during one of his repair visits. Underneath was a journal. Not a diary, not dated entries, just pages and pages of my mother's handwriting, dense and small, the way she wrote when she was thinking too fast for her hand to keep up. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table and read it together. The journal explained everything. Caleb's father, the groom in the album, became violent after Caleb was born. Not gradually, suddenly and badly. Eleanor took me, still an infant, and fled to her parents. She placed Caleb with a cousin because she believed splitting us up was the only way to keep us both safe from his family. The cousin died when Caleb was 4. He ended up in care. Eleanor wrote that losing track of him was the thing that broke something in her permanently. She found him again when he was 20. She gave him work at the cottage, but she could never tell either of us the truth. She was terrified that if we knew about each other, one of us would go looking for the father's family, and they would find the other. His father died in prison 9 years ago. She knew. She wrote about it. But by then the lie had been standing so long it had become the walls of her life, and she did not know how to tear them down without everything collapsing. There was no dramatic moment between Caleb and me. No embrace, no tears, no catharsis. Just 2 people sitting in a quiet kitchen, reading the same woman's handwriting, learning that she loved us by keeping us apart. I do not know what happens next, but when Caleb left that night, I did not lock the door behind him. First time since I moved in. Pale Blue Fox. This is not horror, this is just devastating. She loved you both enough to protect you and not enough to trust you with the truth. I do not know which part hurts more. On to the next one. Every Thanksgiving since my grandma died, there's been an extra place setting at our table. This year, I, 35 female, finally watched who used it. Posted on /x/the day after Thanksgiving. I don't know where else to put this, so here goes. I'm a midwife, 35, still living in the suburbs with my mom Diane and my younger sister Becca. Normal life, normal house. Nothing has ever been wrong here until now, and I'm not even sure something is wrong now, which is part of why I'm posting. 6 years ago, my grandmother Rosemary passed. She lived with us her whole life. This was her house before it was ours. After she died, my mom started doing this thing every Thanksgiving where she sets a 5th place at the table. Full setting. Plate, glass, silverware, cloth napkin, the works. She says it's for Grandma. Becca hates it. She thinks it's morbid, and she's told Mom that more than once, but Diane won't budge. I always took Mom's side. Grief is weird. People need what they need. So this year, it's me, Diane, Becca, and Becca's boyfriend sitting down to eat. 4 people, 5 place settings. The empty chair is at the far end, between Mom and the wall. We eat, we talk, nobody gets up. I'm not even thinking about the plate until maybe 40 minutes into dinner when I look over and my throat just closes. The bread roll on Grandma's plate is torn in half. The napkin is off the table, draped over the seat of the chair like someone pulled it into their lap. There's a smudge of cranberry sauce on the rim of the fork. I looked at every single person at that table. All 4 of us sitting exactly where we'd been the entire meal. Nobody got up. Nobody reached over. I counted twice. I didn't say a word. I just stared at that plate and felt something drop out from under me. I need someone to tell me I'm losing it, because the alternative is that something is very, very wrong in my mother's house. Something was sitting in that chair. Claire couldn't leave it alone. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch with the TV on mute, pretending to watch something until the house went quiet. Becca and her boyfriend went to bed around 11. I heard Mom moving around upstairs for a while, then a door closing softly. Around midnight, I walked back into the dining room. The table was still a mess. Serving dishes, gravy boat, half the sides still sitting out. Everything exactly where we'd left it, except the 5th setting. Gone. Not pushed to the side, not stacked with the other plates. The plate, the glass, the silverware, the napkin, washed, dried, put away. I checked the dish rack. I checked the cupboard. The plate was back on the shelf like it had never been used. I stood in that kitchen telling myself, Mom did it. She's sentimental. She cleaned Grandma's place setting because it mattered to her. But she left every other dish on the table. Every single one. I'm a midwife. I've spent 12 years reading bodies. The way a pulse changes under my fingers, the way breathing shifts before something goes wrong. You learn to trust what you notice, even when it doesn't make sense yet. Something in this house has a rhythm I've never paid attention to. I started watching over the weekend. Friday, I caught Mom carrying a tray upstairs with a cloth draped over it. Saturday, she disappeared to the far end of the hallway for over an hour. Sunday night, I was lying in bed and heard it. Faint, muffled, but unmistakable. A television playing behind a wall. The sound was coming from beyond the door at the end of the upstairs hall. That door has been there my entire life. Mom always said it was a storage closet that collapsed in on itself before I was born. Sealed off, nothing behind it. I walked past it 1,000 times growing up without a second thought. I'm thinking about it now. The door had always been there. She just never listened to what was behind it. She needed to know if she was the only one who heard it. I pulled Becca aside Monday morning while Mom was in the shower. I tried to keep it casual. Hey, have you ever noticed anything weird about that door at the end of the hall upstairs? The one Mom says is a collapsed closet? Becca just looked at me like I'd asked her about the weather. She said, "That's just Mom being Mom, Claire. She's always been weird about Grandma's stuff. You know that." And then she went back to scrolling her phone. I let it go. I waited until Tuesday afternoon when Diane drove out to the grocery store. I went upstairs. The hallway felt longer than it ever had. The door is at the very end, past the bathroom, past Becca's old room. I've walked past it my whole life and never once tried the handle. I tried it now. It didn't budge. I looked closer and there's a deadbolt on the outside. Not old, not painted over. A functional, maintained deadbolt that someone installed and someone uses. I have lived in this house on and off for 35 years, and I have never noticed a lock on this door. I pressed my ear against the wood. At first, just silence. Then I heard it. Breathing. Slow and steady and absolutely human. Not the furnace, not air through a vent. Someone breathing on the other side of a door that I was told leads nowhere. I stepped back so fast I hit the opposite wall. I went to my old bedroom and sat on the edge of the mattress with my hands in my lap, and I just shook. This is the house I grew up in. I learned to walk in the downstairs hallway. I did homework at the kitchen table, and the whole time there was something behind that door that my mother locked from the outside. I don't know what to do. Do I call the police? Do I confront Mom? Do I open it myself? I'm not just scared. It's something worse than scared. It's the feeling that everyone in my family already knows what's in that room, and I'm the only one who doesn't. She never tried the handle, not once in 35 years. Nocturnal wren. The lip print on the wine glass is what got me. That detail is so small but so visceral. You could feel something was physically there. Pale static. Has anyone else noticed she said the napkin moved to the lap position? That means someone taught him table manners in that room. Rosemary was raising him in there like nothing was wrong. Hello, it's me, B. 6 years of Thanksgivings. 6. Your mother watched you sit at that table for 6 years and said nothing. That is not love. That is control. I keep going back and forth on this. Part of me agrees with you completely. But I saw her face when I opened that door. She was terrified, not of me finding out, but of what would happen to him. She has been bringing his meals up twice a day for 6 years and never once slipped. I am angry, and I am also realizing I do not fully understand what she has been carrying. 2 days later, Claire came back with an update. I found out who sits in Grandma's chair. I waited until Mom fell asleep Wednesday night. I took a flathead screwdriver from the junk drawer and worked the deadbolt until it gave. The door opened inward. It was not a collapsed closet. It was a room. Small, maybe 8 by 10 feet, with a cot pushed against the far wall. Clean sheets. A space heater humming in the corner. A radio playing so low I could barely hear it. Stacked meal trays on a folding table. And drawings. Dozens of them taped to the walls in shaky, childlike lines. Trees, houses, a dog, over and over. Sitting on the edge of the cot was a man. Thin, gray-haired, maybe in his 60s. He looked at me with wide eyes and did not blink. He did not speak. He did not move. He just watched me like he was waiting to see what I would do. I closed the door. I went straight to Mom's bedroom and woke her up. She looked at my face and she didn't even ask. She just started talking. His name is Thomas. He is her brother, my uncle. The family had him committed to a state institution in 1992 when he was 23. They told everyone he died there. But Grandma Rosemary found out they were hurting him. Restraints, neglect, things Mom couldn't finish saying. Rosemary got him out, brought him home, put him in that room. She cared for him there for over 20 years. When Rosemary died 6 years ago, Mom found him behind the sealed door 3 days after the funeral, half-starved, terrified. She couldn't send him back. She chose to carry it alone. Dusty velvet. I grew up in a house with a locked room we were told was storage. Moved out at 18 and never asked. This post is making me want to call my mom and also never call her again. Finch. I work in elder care, and the number of families hiding relatives in back rooms is not zero. It's more common than people want to believe, especially in rural and suburban areas where no one checks. Red cedar porch. This is exactly what makes it so disturbing. It's not a ghost story. It's a caregiving story that crossed a line so far back, no one remembers where the line was. Rosemary started it, and Diane inherited it like a mortgage on the house. Claire posted one last time. I'm not asking for advice anymore. I just need to say this out loud to someone who isn't in this house. Thomas is alive. He is 64 years old, and he has lived in that room for over 30 years. He does not speak. He has not spoken in as long as my mother can remember. He eats what Diane brings him. He draws. He listens to the radio. That is his life. That is the entire shape of it. Mom told me the rest of it Thursday morning while we sat at the kitchen table. Every Thanksgiving after everyone went to bed, she would unlock the door and walk him downstairs in the dark. She would sit him at the table in Grandma's chair, Rosemary's chair, and let him eat a plate of food at the real table. One night a year. One meal where he was not behind a wall. She would walk him back up before sunrise and lock the door again. That is what the extra place setting was. Not grief, not a memorial. It was his. I have not called anyone. I do not know if I will. I sat at the kitchen table last night after Mom went to bed, and I looked at the chair where Thomas sits once a year. And I understood something I wish I didn't. There is no right thing to do here. There is no phone call that fixes 30 years. There is no authority I trust to treat him better than the last one did. I am a midwife. I have held newborns who came into the world in silence, and I have waited for the cry that tells you everything is going to be all right. Sometimes it comes late. Sometimes you have to wait longer than you think you can stand. I will set the plate next November. I just needed someone to know. Red cedar porch. The drawings on the wall are the part I cannot get past. He's been in there long enough to decorate. That room is his entire world. On to the next one. I, 30 male, just found out someone has been logging into my work account every night at 3 a.m. from another country, and IT thinks it's me. Every file he opened looked back at him. Hey, posting here because honestly, I do not know where else to put this. I am Spencer, 30, photographer. I do contract work for a mid-sized marketing firm, mostly product shoots, corporate headshots, the occasional editorial spread. I work remotely from the house I share with my partner, Elise. The job is simple. I shoot, I edit, I upload everything to the company drive, tag the files, move on. I have a personal portfolio folder on there too. The firm lets contractors use spare server space for backups, and I have been storing my best work on it for about 2 years now. Last Thursday, the IT manager Darren pulls me into a video call. No small talk. He shares his screen and shows me access logs. My credentials have been used to log into the company system every single night at 3 a.m. for the past 4 months. Every session originates from an IP address geolocated to Moldova. I told him I have never been to Moldova. I do not know anyone in Moldova. He just nodded like he expected me to say that. Then he showed me what the sessions were actually doing. They were not just logging in. Whoever this is has been going straight to my portfolio folder, downloading my original files and replacing them with altered versions. I pulled up one of my portraits side by side with the version now sitting on the server. The lighting was the same, the composition was identical, but the subject, a woman I shot at an outdoor market last spring, had been looking to her left in my original. In the replaced version, her eyes were pointed directly into the lens, not shifted, not cropped differently, edited, seamlessly. Every single portrait in the folder is the same. Subjects who were turned away, glancing down mid-conversation, all of them now staring straight into the camera. I am sitting here looking at a before and after of a shot I know I took, and the woman in it is looking at me like she knows I finally noticed. 4 months of someone rewriting his work while he slept, and he had no idea until now. It only came when he was not looking. I spent the whole weekend going through everything. I have a local backup drive, 2 terabytes of raw files going back years. I pulled it out of the closet and started comparing. The originals on my drive versus what is sitting on the company server now. It is not sloppy work. Whoever is doing this has serious retouching skill. We are talking frequency separation, color-matched lighting adjustments on the iris, warped catch lights that actually reflect a plausible light source. This is not someone dragging eyeballs around in a free app. This is professional grade. Every single portrait. Every one. I told Elise about it that evening. She sat across from me at the kitchen table and listened to the whole thing. She looked concerned, said it was probably a hacker, maybe a former employee with a grudge. She asked if I had changed my passwords yet. I called Darren the next morning, asked him to check whether anyone else at the firm had been hit. He came back an hour later. Only my credentials. Only my portfolio folder. Only 3 a.m. Always the same Moldova IP. So I did everything you are supposed to do. New password, 16 characters, randomly generated. 2-factor authentication through an app on my phone. I even changed the email tied to the account. Tuesday morning I woke up and checked the logs. 3:02 a.m. New login. Same IP. Same folder accessed. Same files touched. The 2-factor prompt never triggered on my phone. No notification, no approval request. Nothing. I started staying up past 3. I would sit on the couch with my laptop open, watching the access log refresh. Nothing ever happened while I was awake. Wednesday, I made it to 3:15 before I passed out on the couch. When I woke up at 6, there it was. 3:01 a.m. Whoever this is, they know when I am asleep. The pattern was clear. It waited for him to close his eyes. Someone knew his work better than he did. I called my younger sister Nora. She works in software development, and she is the only person I trust with something like this. I sent her the altered files and the originals from my local drive. She ran everything she could think of on the replaced images. Metadata stripped clean. No camera model, no editing software signature, no GPS tags, nothing. Whoever did this knew how to cover their tracks on the file level too. Nora said the skill level was not amateur. This was someone who understood retouching at a professional level. I started going through my contact list. Former assistants, other photographers I have worked with, editors at agencies, anyone who might have a reason to mess with me. Nothing added up. Then I went back to the altered files and looked at the group shots. That is when it got worse. In a team photo I did for a tech startup last fall, 12 people in the frame. Only 3 faces had been altered, the 3 I personally positioned during the shoot. The rest were standing where they chose. Someone knows which subjects I directed. I brought this to Darren and he finally escalated it. The firm hired an external cybersecurity contractor who traced the Moldova IP. It is a known VPN exit node. The real source is completely masked behind it. Dead end. Nora told me to install network monitoring software on my home router. She said if the connection is being initiated from somewhere near me, the traffic has to touch my local network at some point. I set it up that night and told no one except her. Network Wraith. The fact that IT sat on this for 4 months before telling you is almost as disturbing as the logins themselves. That is 120 sessions someone had inside your files. Coastal paranoia. You said she moved out that night. Has anyone actually confirmed she is gone? because someone comfortable doing this for months does not just walk away clean. The thread had one question Spencer was not ready to answer. Spencer came back with an update nobody was ready for. Found where she was selling my altered photos. The network monitor caught it on the second night. Nora walked me through the logs over the phone. There was a device on my home network I had never seen before. A small wireless adapter with a MAC address that did not match any of my equipment. The VPN tunnel to the Moldova exit node was originating from it. The traffic was coming from inside my own house. I felt sick, but I kept going. I pulled the router's connection history and searched for when that MAC address first appeared. It connected for the first time 7 months ago, the same week Elise moved in. I sat with that information for an entire day. I did not eat. I barely moved from the desk in my office. I kept pulling up the timeline and checking it again. 7 months ago she moved in. 4 months ago the login started. She had 3 months on my network before she began accessing the company drive. 3 months to learn my schedule, figure out my passwords, understand which folders mattered to me. I have been sleeping next to the person who has been methodically logging into my work account every single night at 3 a.m., downloading my photographs, altering the faces, and uploading them back. She sat across from me at the kitchen table and suggested it might be a disgruntled employee. She watched me change my passwords and said nothing. I have not confronted her yet. I need to understand why before I do, but I am about to. Halcyon Dread. Altered eyes in photographs is genuinely one of the most unsettling things I have read on here. That is not hacking, that is obsession with a very specific aesthetic output. Sleet Anon. The buyers scare me more than Elise. Who specifically requests portraits where every subject stares at the camera? What are they using those for? Halcyon Dread. There are entire corners of the art market built around uncanny, manipulated photography. Direct gaze edited portraits sell for real money to collectors who treat them like totems. The fact that these were altered versions of real people's faces and sold without consent makes this so much worse legally. He was about to sit across from her one last time. She did not even try to lie. I put the MAC address log and a stack of before and after prints on the kitchen table and asked her to sit down. Elise looked at the papers for maybe 5 seconds and then looked back at me. No surprise, no confusion. She said she had been building a portfolio under a different name. She had been taking my portraits, editing the eyes so every subject stared directly into the camera, and selling the prints online to collectors who specifically requested that look. She called it direct gaze work. She said there is a market for it. She said she thought I would never notice because I never reopen old files once a project is delivered. She was right about that. I never did. She had been doing it for 4 months, and I only found out because Darren happened to audit the access logs. She moved out that night, packed 2 bags, and left before midnight. I spent the next 3 days going through every folder on the company drive and my local backup. I restored every original I could find, but the ones she already sold are gone. Dozens of prints bought by strangers. People I will never track down now own manipulated versions of faces that belong to real people. People who trusted me when I pointed a camera at them. I thought I was done cleaning files yesterday. This morning I opened a folder I was certain I had already checked. A portrait from a wedding I shot last year. The bride had been looking at her father during the first dance. In the version on my drive now, she is staring straight into the lens. I do not know how many more are left. Every time I think I have found them all, another pair of eyes is waiting. Mall. Throwaway. Check if she made copies of your house keys too. Someone who spends 4 months doing this level of detailed image editing at 3 a.m. while you sleep next to her is operating on a level of patience that should terrify you. Gray box. I work in digital forensics. The fact that she routed it through a Moldova VPN means she knew exactly how to make it look external. She wanted IT to think it was a foreign threat actor, not someone on the home network. That is exactly what Darren said when I brought the MAC address back to him. He went pale. He said in his 15 years in IT, he has never seen someone go to that length to disguise local network activity as a foreign intrusion. She set up the VPN tunnel on a device I did not even know was connected to our router. I have been a photographer for 8 years, and I never once thought to check whether my backup files still matched the originals. On to the next one. The voicemails kept coming. 2 more showed up over the next week. Same number, same voice. The second one came on a Thursday night. She said, "Little bear, I noticed Bowie's been favoring his back leg. Make sure he didn't step on something." Bowie is my dog. He'd been limping since Monday. A thorn in his pad, nothing serious, but I hadn't told a soul about it. I hadn't posted about it anywhere. I just noticed it and figured it would work itself out, which it did. The third voicemail came the following Tuesday. She mentioned a kid in my class, not by name, but she described an interaction I'd had that afternoon with a student who'd been crying at his desk. She said I handled it well. She said she was proud. The way she said proud, that slight catch in her voice, that pause right before the last word, that was Helen. I tried calling the number back. It just rings. No voicemail, no click, no carrier message, nothing. Just endless ringing. I called my phone provider and asked them to look it up. The rep put me on hold for about 10 minutes and came back sounding confused. She said the number wasn't assigned to any account. Not disconnected, never assigned. It doesn't exist in their system. I thought about calling my sister Camille. She lives about an hour south. We talk every Sunday, have since the funeral. But Camille took Mom's death harder than I did. She was closer to Helen, always was, and she's still in the thick of it. I couldn't dump this on her. So I played the voicemail for Derek instead. He came home early one night and I just handed him my phone without explaining. He listened and the color left his face. He knew Helen. He met her a bunch of times. He said, "That's her," and then he said it had to be a prank. But who pranks someone with information they never shared? It feels like my mother is sitting somewhere watching me live my life and then calling to let me know she saw. And the calls were not stopping. Then came the fifth voicemail. This one was longer than the others, almost 2 minutes. She talked about my class, specifically about a lesson I'd done that day on the water cycle. She said she loved that I used the jar demonstration, the one where you heat water and watch condensation form on the lid. She said it reminded her of when she taught me the same thing in her kitchen when I was about 8, using a pot of soup. She was right. I'd forgotten that until she said it. I sat in my car in the school parking lot and cried for about 20 minutes. I finally called Camille that night. I didn't tell her about the voicemails. I just asked if anything weird had happened to her since Mom died. Anything at all. She went quiet for a long time. Then she said no, nothing. Why? But the pause before she answered was too long, and her voice changed in a way I know from growing up with her. Camille is a terrible liar. I didn't push it. I started screen recording every voicemail the second it came in, backed them up to my laptop. Then I brought the files to a colleague named Marcus, who produces music and does sound editing as a side thing. He listened to all 5. He said the voice was remarkably natural and consistent, not obviously synthetic. But he flagged something in the background audio. There was a faint compression artifact, a kind of digital residue that he said was more consistent with software output than an actual phone line. He said it sounded like the audio was generated by an application and then routed through a call relay. I didn't know what to do with that. The most recent voicemail ended with her saying she misses me and that she will always be watching. That sentence has not left my head since. Sleepless in PDX. The fact that it knew what you ate while you were alone is what got me. That is not a glitch, that is observation. Clover Kid. This is exactly why I told my family to destroy all home videos after I die. I do not want to become someone's puppet. Raven mode. I work in telecom. An unregistered number does not mean the number does not exist. It means whoever set it up did not want it traced. That should scare you more than the voice. I called the number back twice. First time it rang once and disconnected. Second time I got a carrier message saying the number was not in service. My carrier confirmed there is no account associated with it. Camille's app uses a standard VoIP relay, and the number it routes through is completely different. So yes, I am aware that makes the last voicemail worse, not better. Something about Camille's silence kept pulling at him. A few days later, the OP came back with an update. Camille showed me the app, and now I wish she hadn't. Some of you suggested AI voice cloning in the comments. I couldn't stop thinking about it. On Saturday, I drove to Camille's place. I didn't accuse her of anything. I just sat on her couch and told her everything. The voicemails, the number, what Mom's voice was saying, all of it. She lasted about 30 seconds before she started crying. She pulled out her phone and showed me an app, a voice cloning service. She had uploaded dozens of our old home videos, birthdays, holidays, random Tuesday dinners Mom filmed on her camcorder. Enough audio to train a model. Camille had been talking to it every night for months. She would type messages and hear Mom's voice respond. It was how she was getting through the days, or not getting through them. She was spending 3-4 hours a night in that app. The voicemails were an accident. The app has a feature that lets you forward a session clip to your own number as a voice memo. Camille had been saving her favorites. One night, she mistyped the number and sent it to me instead. Then it happened again. And again. She never checked because she assumed they were saving to her own voicemail like usual. We went through her session logs together. Every voicemail matched. The dinner? I had told Camille about the spinach pasta on our Sunday call. Bowie's limp? I mentioned it in passing. The classroom moment? I told her about the crying student that same week. She had been feeding the AI details about my life without realizing it, and the app wove them into its responses. Every single voicemail accounted for, except one. The last voicemail, the one where Mom said she would always be watching, contained a sentence at the end. She mentioned a letter Helen wrote before she died, hidden in the house where we grew up. Camille swears she never typed anything about a letter. I believe her. Neither of us knew any letter existed. Graveshift, Dan. The pet name detail is what makes this real to me. Scammers can fake a voice, but they cannot fake the specific nickname your mom used when you were 8. Just Lena here. Please check on your sister. If she has been talking to a clone of your dead mother every night, she needs help. Yesterday. Graveshift, Dan. Seconding this hard. Grief tech is designed to keep you subscribed, not to help you heal. There was a whole investigative piece about these apps exploiting bereaved users. The companies literally optimized for session length. Everything explained, except the one thing that mattered most. The voice profile was gone. But the phone rang anyway. Camille deleted everything. The app, the voice model, all of it. We sat on her couch for a long time afterward, not saying anything. I drove home around 11. Bowie met me at the door the way he always does. I let him out, locked up, and sat on the couch in the dark. Around midnight, my phone lit up. Same number. I watched it ring. I didn't pick up. When it went to voicemail, I waited about 5 minutes before I played it back. There was no talking at first, just breathing. Long, slow, steady breathing. The kind I used to hear when Mom fell asleep on the couch watching her shows, and I would sit in the recliner doing homework, just listening to her breathe. It went on for maybe 40 seconds. Then one word. A single word in a dialect I barely recognized. Helen grew up in a small village in Quebec before her family moved to Vermont when she was about 9. She spoke a regional dialect there that she dropped completely as a teenager. I heard her use it maybe twice in my entire life, both times talking to her own mother on the phone when I was very small. There are no recordings of Helen speaking that dialect. None. No home video, no voicemail, nothing. Camille's app could not have generated it because there was no training data for it. The word was a term of endearment, the kind of thing a mother says to a child when she is tucking him in. I have not received another voicemail since that night. Camille and I drove to our childhood home the following weekend. We found the letter exactly where the voicemail said it would be, tucked inside the lining of a cedar chest in the attic. I am not going to share what it said. That belongs to us. I still don't know what I believe. Maybe I am not supposed to know. Maybe the not knowing is the whole point. Throwaway B. AI voice cloning is terrifying, but explainable. The last voicemail using a dialect never recorded anywhere is the part I cannot rationalize, and I have been trying for 20 minutes. And that is the last story for today. Thanks for listening. And if these stories found you, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one.